Start. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, International Trade in the Digital Era, UK and EU Perspectives. I'm almost certain that it will be a very interesting one because we will see some very interesting perspectives from two different sides. This is me. It's a good picture of me. My name is Malin Janovu, and I'm the Business Development Manager for International Trade at the Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce. Unfortunately, Anne White could not attend our session today, and she's sending her sincere apologies. I'm afraid you are stuck with me for approximately 1 hour today, so good luck with that. If you never heard about Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce, we are the accredited Chamber of Commerce covering Berkshire, South Bucks, Oxfordshire, Swindon, and Heathrow. We work close with other organizations from UK and from abroad to represent the companies in our region. And today I would like to say a big thank you to our colleagues from Flanders Investment and Trade from the Belgian Embassy. They offered their support for this webinar. And if you would like to contact this great team, just let us know and we can introduce you. Before we start, I'll just like to state that today's session is being recorded, and the recording of the session will be made available on our website, thamesvalleychamber.co.uk. If you have any questions, please raise them using the Q&A facility. We'll have a Q&A session at the end, and we will cover some of your questions during the session. And if we won't have time to cover all of them, I promise you that we will answer following the webinar by sending you an email with an answer. Now, I made some assumptions for today that we are all on the same page in regards to international trade. We all know what an invoice is, and a packing list, and an airway bill or bill of lading. Most of us work with them. We maybe heard about certificates of origin or ATA carnets. I heard stories in the recent years of documents being rejected by customs officers in other countries just because they were manually signed in black ink instead of blue ink. It starts to sound hard to believe this in 2024. In our rapidly changing global trade environment, trade digitalization has become a game changer. By harnessing information technology and digital solution, it revolutionized traditional trade processes. Looking at the current trends, it seems that in the relatively short time, we will get rid of the ink stains and the paper cuts. This is, of course, another assumption, and an assumption is that we all desire this. We decided to bring in front of you today two specialists who are involved directly in the digitalization of trade. One of our speakers today is from United Kingdom, and our overseas guests speak to us from Belgium. At the end of today's webinar, I hope you will have a clear image of the trends and updates for now and for future in regards to international trade. I just invite you to be curious. We will understand more about the single trade window, gateway to Britain, and also we will learn about what are the digital transformation at the ports in UK and European Union. Before introducing our guests, I would like to tell you that even if we are almost 1 century old as an organization, we are still in the game with the latest technologies in the field of international trade and documentation. We live in the digital era, and technology makes our lives a lot easier when it works, of course. Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce was always open to new digital technologies, and we are part of some of the latest projects worldwide in the trade digitalization. Here are some of that we made available for our members and customers. One of them is plain paper certificates of origin. The UK certificates of origin applications are now fully online, and the applicants receive the approved certificates in a PDF format. These can be printed in color, and we hope that in the near future, the printing of documents to become optional. And the certificates now have a QR code, which allow the verification by the foreign entities on a trusted platform. EATA carnets. The EATA carnets are now available in digital format, and currently only few destinations are participating. We hope the network of accepting parties will increase in the near future. The application is done online. Once issued, the EATA carnet can be downloaded on your smartphone wallet using the official ICC EATA carnet app. When crossing the border, the EATA carnet holder will get through customs paperless using the application that communicates with the EATA carnet customs portal. The QR code will do the life easier for a lot of people. We are part of this project, so please contact us if you want to hear more about this. Another project that looks promising and offers a lot of value to the exporters is Genesis. So International Chambers of Commerce Genesis project serves as a user-friendly, secure, and cost-effective platform to support businesses of any sizes in the origin declaration process. To date, there are no regulations or obligations on the certification of an invoice declaration. Such declaration is carried out by suppliers, exporters, either on a voluntary basis or upon the request of customs authorities or importers as part of the procedures listed in a free trade agreement. The lack of knowledge and understanding of preferential rules of origin by exporting companies, especially the smaller businesses, can result in mistakes while self-certifying the origin on the invoice declaration. Preferential rules of origin generally vary depending on the agreement and the type of product. Through Genesis, the exporter can have their origin declarations checked against the specific rules of preferential origin by specialists, and a QR code will be placed on the documents to certify this. This will allow the verification of the document by foreign entities like buyers or customs representatives. We have been part of these projects from the pilot stages, and if you want to find out more information about any of them, please contact us. And now it's time to hear from our distinguished guests. Firstly, we will hear from Daniel O'Sullivan, or Dan, from CNS, and after we will hear from Lars van Dijk from Port of Antwerp-Bruges. Allow me to introduce you to Daniel O'Sullivan, our first distinguished speaker today. Dan is the Commercial Business Manager at Community Network Services Limited, or how we know it, CNS. After working in the freight forwarding for over 24 years, he joined CNS and offers support to companies to enable simpler but smarter trading. Dan, thank you very much for joining us today. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. First of all, thank you to Marlin at the team at the Thames Valley Chamber for this kind invitation. Lovely to meet you all virtually. If you could just go on to the next slide, Marlin. This is what I want to discuss with you today. Hopefully everybody knows who CNS are, but I'll just explain a bit more about who we are. Been asked to talk about the single trade window, and I hope I say this word properly, but I keep on stumbling over digitalisation. So I might just call it the D word as we move through the presentation. And we decided earlier that there is a recap video and a video about CNS, but we will probably share that with the presentation after the event. So if you could move on again, a bit more about who we are. So not many of you might know that CNS is 100% owned by the DP World Group. We've really grown over the last 2 to 3 years. We're now up to a team of just over 90, based in Southampton. We have myself in commercial, we have a product management team, a delivery team, and of course our technical and help desk support. Now, we're not just a CSP, we're and hence the growth in the headcount. We're delivering new products and services in our global platforms, as well as, many of you will be aware, and I'll touch on this later, how we're migrating our CNS Compass system to new architecture. And of course, as a CSP, we are HMRC approved. And Marlon, if you could go on to the next slide, there's a little statement here from HMRC about how CSPs are vital to allow trade to fulfill their legal obligations. Obviously, I won't read that verbatim, but hopefully that explains who CNS are. Marlon, if you could move forward. So, in regards to single trade window, what I'm going to do today is just give you a bit of an overview about the single trade window from us as a CSP, what's been our engagement so far with government, what's been confirmed, and how we'll continue to engage, and equally how you as community users are really important to that continued engagement. And I'll also mention how our own products, we feel, complement not just actually the single trade window, but the digitalisation. And of course, this is why our esteemed friends at Thames Valley have put this together with the single trade window and digitalisation. Sorry, the D word, because I'm going to continue to stumble over that. How they complement each other. So as you can see, at the top, we have the customs authorities, the trading communities, and other government agencies. These are the key elements who need to see the information within any window. And as you'll see from the port community system ecosystem there, we're actually at CNS, we're already a single trade window. As such, we're already engaging with all elements of the using community. So this is why, as we've worked with government and attended multiple consultation workshops, we continue to focus on our goal, as not just with the single trade window, but all of our products, is to make sure it's as beneficial as it can be. We need to represent our users and our community to ensure, and these are the three pillars that I'll talk about throughout this morning's presentation, is that any change improves visibility, control, and efficiency. And this is really what we see as the goal has to be for the single trade window. So what's been confirmed so far? From a CSP perspective, nothing. The only confirmation we've had from government is about the free-to-air customs declaration software. That is all that has been confirmed by government. But we will, as I said, continue to attend workshops and ensure that we represent our users effectively. And this is where I'm asking, and this is a great platform to be able to do so, is to ensure that you as our users, or hopefully a potential user or an engager with the system, provide that feedback. You know, we want to represent your voice with the platform that we have with government, to influence the change and make sure that it is effectively going to benefit the whole community. How are our products complementing the single trade window? And again, I think the key elements here are, as I said, about the visibility, the control, and the efficiency. The first one you can see there is our CNS PCS, Port Community System. What's the upgrade to architecture going to be? It's going to be a new user interface. It will be a lot more robust for the engagement that will be forthcoming. And a key element here is the business-to-business connectivity. Really, the future here is about sort of API connectivity. And this, I think, is the real challenge that our friends in government have, is to enable smooth and clear communication between all government agencies. As we're well aware, They do exist on different systems, ecosystems, and the real challenge there is bringing that all together to make sure that the information flows clearly, effectively, and that our users and the whole community is able to see the truth and the current status of a shipment at any one time. CDMS, that's CNS's Customs Declaration Management System. We love an acronym in this industry. We developed this for CDS, or the Chief to CDS transition. And as Marlin mentioned, before I joined CNS, I was a freight forwarder. And I wish, before I joined CNS, I was leading a team through the transition from Chief to CDS imports. And I really wished I had the system, because the error resolution guidance, and everybody struggled, didn't we, with that transfer from Chief to CDS. It was a challenge for everyone. And I really wish I was aware and had the ability to use CNS's software at that time, because what we really try and focus on is again, that efficiency and that visibility. And when we have errors within the customs declaration, as is always going to happen, what we've focused on doing is actually taking the user to the element in the declaration that the error has occurred, rather than, as we were experiencing a few years ago with imports go live, I think that's the area of the declaration that the error is doing. Let's resubmit and hope that error disappears. That was ultimately how that was managed. And this is really, I think, a key bit around all of our products, is to make sure that it really removes that guesswork and the user knows where they are. They're guided to the solution at all times. A really exciting element of what we're working on, and again, I think this will really complement the single trade window, is the EU connectivity, the customs connectivity that we're working on. I'll go into a bit more detail when we cover digitalisation. Oh, hey, I said it. But that is a key element. We're not just focused on the UK. We have the DP World group to support. We have a lot of internal customers, and through that we're able to explore customs connectivity in other markets. And that's really going to help transform our platform, but equally help things be a lot more simpler for the user, i.e. one data set covers an import and an export declaration. Moving on to safety and security, again, there's a lot happening in this space. New rules coming in. We really use our software to help people be more compliant, avoid potential fines, and access the French and the Irish systems in one platform. And that one platform leading to BEAMS, again, we love an acronym. That's our border exit and entry management system. It automates that pre-lodgement process. Of course, there are free systems available, but really what the BEAMS software does is provide one unified dashboard. And that's missing in a lot of other platforms. And again, we're open, and we must have engagement from our users. It's the key to us moving forward. And we're constantly evolving how we're pricing and moving this software forward. But again, I thought it was really key to mention these are really key elements of how we see the single trade window working effectively, that whichever software provider you're using, your customs declaration software, your border exit software, and your safety and security will all need to fit within this ecosystem of the single trade window. But just to summarize in regards to that, we continue, as I said, to engage, and I'm inviting, and CNS is inviting the community to really provide as much feedback to us as possible, so that we can present that to the engagement that we have in future workshops and consultations with government. Marlin, if you could move on to the next slide for me. So, digitalisation. Not only is it a hard word for me to say, It's also can be quite challenging, I think, to deliver. First of all, what is digitalisation? It's really using digital technology to transform business processes. Well, that's what Google says anyway. What I want to cover here is what we feel the barriers are to that change. What are ports able to do, and what are C&S doing in the digitalisation space? I touched first on legacy processes, and I know, Marlon, you touched on that at the beginning with how we can move forward with ATA carnets, etc. And there's one key element we've been speaking to, and I've personally spoken to a vet who, and one particular company who deals with, say, up to 40,000 export health certificates a year. And they came to C&S to ask, what can we do to help lobby for change in removing the need to have a physical document travel with the goods on a short sea movement, potentially remove the need for a vet to physically be on site for a basic inspection, when actually maybe could that be done virtually? So there are so many opportunities just in that small area to improve efficiency, cost, visibility. But I think cost is the big aspect. Imagine the vets having to travel all over the country, the time they have out of the office. So the opportunity to reduce cost, improve speed, stop delaying of vehicles, because of course vehicles get delayed on their way to a site. So the vets have to see the goods onto the vehicle and see it's on its way. But if that can be done virtually, surely that would remove a lot of cost and delays. So I'm sure that you can all think of multiple legacy processes that could be improved and changed that will not only speed up things, but reduce cost. And there's also a cost of change. When you're a decision maker in a business, you might be able to see, well, crikey, yes, I know we need to move forward, but what's the cost? Well, this is another cost already on my bottom line. I can't quite see the tangible benefits of this change. So there really needs to be, with every development within this space, a clear, tangible explanation to the community and the users as to how this will improve their day-to-day. Data security. Now, I'm not just thinking about protecting of passwords and protecting of data. This is more about sort of intellectual property. If I give an example of, imagine Port Health taking interest in a Kentucky Fried Chicken shipment. Well, the USP is the ingredients list. How is the digitalization of that process going to ensure the protection of that data if it's transferred electronically? These are key questions and concerns that I think trade needs to answer and needs to ensure is in place. And these are the kind of questions we are posing in our engagement with government and other regulatory bodies when we have an audience at that table. And then the last barrier is change. We hate change. We're scared by change. There is, we've always done it this way. Why do we need to change that? And that, I think, is natural with whatever we're doing. But I think there's an element within our industry that there's certainly a nervousness to change systems, change processes, because we've always done it this way. Moving on to how the ports can improve and utilize digitalization. So from an automation perspective, we're talking about digital trade corridors, how this will change with the new government, with new relationships perhaps being built. This is something that I know the DP World Group are already working on with some areas. This will continue to move forward. I mentioned it under the single trade window, but this end-to-end, this visibility, control, and efficiency is key. to any business. I think you need visibility, you need to control, and of course, why would you implement anything if it didn't improve your efficiency? Ports continue to provide that, and CNS works closely with DP World to be a key element of that. And you'll see down below we have the CNS container inquiry API. And again, I'll touch on this a bit later, but in terms of end-to-end visibility, this is something that a lot of our haulage, shipping line and freight forwarder customers utilize, because we're able to push and pull data into their own ERP systems that will tell them that vessel is arriving, the ETA has changed, or and equally as we mentioned there, see down the vehicle booking system, there is updates to that container inquiry that will confirm that a PIN has been released. So there's constant evolving in that area, but the goal being, again, increasing visibility, control and efficiency for all the supply chain actors. Infrastructure is an interesting one. And I'll give you an example that a colleague was mentioning to me is currently if you're importing full containers, you're coming into a UK port, there's a vehicle booking system in place, you've got your time slot, you probably come into or your haulier comes into the port, reports to a checkpoint to announce that they're there. With infrastructure, what we should and will be looking at is geofencing. So imagine the vehicle that's been allocated to that booking, as soon as that's within the perimeter of the port, that is telling the system and moving that container already into the transfer area, ready for that vehicle to arrive. So the opportunity there for, again, improved efficiency and visibility for the port, but as well as the user is, I think, really, really important. And of course, we will continue, and DP will continue to improve the terminal operating systems. We're actively involved with the Where's My Container? That's CNS back office that pushes that. It's key that when our straddle carriers and cranes are taking containers off, that speed of update is as quick as possible to the user. And of course, the big thing is AI. What's AI going to change? How can that change the space moving forward? DP World and CNS, we have teams engaging regularly about how we can utilize this, but of course, ensuring that the customer service and the customer experience is key. The security, again, is key, but again, we have to evolve in that space. And then lastly, how is CNS moving forward with digitalisation? I've already mentioned about how our Compass product is being upgraded. Mention our customs declaration system and our expansion into Europe. We're also launching a freight management system. And again, it's about that ecosystem of bringing, of course, there are other products out there with an integrated customs and freight management solution. But actually, what we're looking to do is, what elements can we bring in of the Compass system? Can we bring in claiming of UCNs, transferring PINs? All of these things need to be discussed and agreed, but the opportunity is fantastic to again improve that visibility, control and efficiency. I know I'm laboring this point and you're probably getting sick of it, but I think that's the key. This is where we feel that moving forward, that's what people need. They want to be able to focus on the customer rather than interrogating system after system. And I've mentioned the container status API, and the vehicle booking system being integrated, sharing the PINs will continue to evolve in that space. So it's not just the customs broker we're looking after, the shipping line, we're also looking after the hauliers and driving information as quickly as possible to them. And then lastly, you'll be pleased to know, security, as I mentioned there at the very end, the ISO 2001, that is what we've achieved. We recognize that we have to demonstrate the security of our users' data. That is fundamental to everything that we do before we go to market with anything. This has to be completely boxed off, secure, tested and tested and tested again. So it kind of summarizes nicely, really, that of course we want to be as productive and seen to be at the forefront of development, but fundamentally we must look after the data, but ensure that any change improves, again, lastly, visibility, control and efficiency. That covers, Marlin, the digitalisation. That obviously we'll do questions at the end. I may not be able to answer every single question, but I make an assurance that I will promise to take those questions away to more learned colleagues and get you the answer that you need. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dan. And I promise that I'll send all the attendees the presentation in a PDF format, and they will get the link to this video so they'll understand more about CNS.
Thank you.
The questions, we'll have a Q&A session. And I've got some questions. People are asking questions right now, and I have some things that I want to hear from you. I've got questions for you myself. So I will have an open discussion at the end of the presentation. So thank you, Dan. This was interesting, and I know for a fact I've saw AI working, and I saw how containers are shuffled, and they are shuffling during the night, so trucks won't stay in queues when they have to pick them up from the port. And I think this is something that you did at CNS, and I really liked it. Now it's time to hear from our overseas distinguished guest, Lars. Lars van Dijk works for the Digital and Innovation Department at the Port of Antwerp-Bruges Authority. He is the business solution architect for the port community applications offered by the port and its daughter companies. He led the Gateway to Britain data sharing platform as program manager over the past 2 years. The Gateway to Britain programs aims to bridge both the gap across the channel and the gaps in transparency between businesses. I saw how Gateway to Britain developed in the last years, so I know that it's a very interesting and very nice project that you did there, and I'm very curious to hear more about it. So I'll stop my sharing so you can share the presentation yourself. That's all right. Welcome,
Thank
Lars.
you. Thank you so much, Malin. Normally, you should be able to see my screen now. Yeah, I see a thumbs up. That's perfect. Thank you. Daniel, also, thank you for sharing your presentation. That was very insightful, very interesting. And now we're on to something from across the channel, really, the Gateway to Britain project. Malin, thanks for the introduction. I won't be taking away any more time to introduce myself. That has already been done. So let's jump right into Gateway to Britain. I'm sharing some pictures here that might spark some nightmares, but that gets the adrenaline up to listen to my presentation. So that's a bit my tactic. What I want to show with these pictures, the first one is a runway full of trucks. This was taken by drone or helicopter in the UK. The UK, but also Europe, distinguished some old disused runways after Brexit for the trucks to park on, just in case all the border procedures for export and import weren't completed yet. Now, they weren't really used to the fullest, like you see in the picture here. That was more of all disasters coming together. This was more due to COVID than due to Brexit, we must admit. But this is what I just want to indicate, and also with the second picture happened not long after, is that disruptions in the supply chain will always be there, whether they are man-made, whether they are accidents or whatever. You just need to manage them. And in the years since these pictures have been taken, we've had other crises, again, on the Suez Canal today with the Houthi rebels, or just other stuff happening or congestion. In any case, what I want to indicate is that the supply chain is very volatile. This has always been the case, and after Brexit, we in Europe got a means to really start doing something and alleviate the effects from Brexit. And that is how the Gateway to Britain project was born. We've gotten funds from the EU to work on a lot of different initiatives, and we use that for the Gateway to Britain initiative. The Gateway to Britain initiative is not just led by the Port of Antwerp-Bruges. No, it's led by multiple different partners from the Flanders side. We've worked for many years to develop a concept. We've gone through a lot of phases, more information on that later. But within that concept, 3 pillars or 3 core concepts live. One is that to alleviate the negative effects of Brexit and to boost further trade, you need to build a data sharing platform where you connect all parties, not just within a single port community setting, but also much further from that. So that could really be from a farm in Poland all the way to the shelves of a Tesco in Glasgow, for example. And every single logistical step in between is taken along in that platform. So everything from customs formalities, transport planning, where is it in a warehouse, all that is stored in the platform. And also a collaborative aspect must lie within that platform. That is pillar 1, and the aim is to create a transparency that we really never had before. So good, yeah, that's pillar 1. Then pillar 2 is a physical service point. The physical service point, the idea is that SMEs can call upon the services of one of these points. That they like, whether it's DHL or UPS, they give them their goods and they will take care of all the formalities for a single transparent price. And the different service points can be compared upon their price because they must all deliver a certain minimum feature set. This is an initiative that the Flemish Institute of Logistics has worked on. They launched it back in December. And about 7 Flemish logistical parties have been certified for exporting to the UK. And we've seen that a lot of SMEs that have stopped trading with the UK really started trading again via this platform because it's all simple and transparent for them. So we do see a boost in trade there, and the Flemish Institute of Logistics is trying to increase trade via this platform even more. Then the third pillar, the transparent trade lane. This is a track and trace solution, and combining existing technologies, whether it is a physical GPS tracker, another IoT device working with RFID, NFC, or just traditional barcodes or QR codes. So it's not really that innovative, but it is innovative in another sense, is that the same devices are shared upon the whole chain that I explained in pillar 1. So the cost for these devices are shared, but also the insights from these devices are shared. And we make the connection. We work on pillar 1 and 3 as a Port of Antwerp-Bruges to combine all that information in a single data platform. Now, building a data platform that encompasses all that information, it must combine information from a lot of different sources and a lot of different systems. And that is a very difficult undertaking, as you can imagine. Not just tying all the different systems together, but most definitely working on data quality and making sure that you build a single source of trust with data that you can rely upon. With this data platform, we want to bring together data from the different parties, but not alter that data. We just want to create a transparency, bring it all together, and allow for collaboration where parties can exchange the information with each other. So to make the goals a bit more concrete, we want to connect all the parties that are in that chain. It's really a multimodal story. It's multiple different parties, multiple different actors. We want to be the input for one party, and for the next party, the output of the party previously will be their input. That's really the chain that we want to create. It should be both a web platform and an API-based platform, so you can integrate however you like. And also in a mixed and matched setting, so that you can integrate along the way. The benefits of this platform is really that we will reduce all that manual communication that exists today in the logistical industry. So gone are all the emails, phone calls, faxes, letters, and smoke signals, whatever you might have received in the past. So we want to get rid of all of that, make a streamlined platform. Of course, we know it depends on how the platform is used, but we at least want to give the tool set to be able to do that. And this might have been preached earlier as well. There have been initiatives to try this in the past. We try to be different in a couple of different aspects. We've gone from a user-centric approach. We've worked with about 2,000 companies, both in Flanders and the UK, to tailor this platform to what it should become, what features it should have. And we already trailed a platform, more on that later, with these parties, where we really see these benefits popping up. And they have said that they can increase the number of shipments with the same personnel that they currently have, or decrease the number of FTEs if the shipments don't pick up. So that's very interesting that we've really achieved to build something that can increase productivity. We want to create an end-to-end visibility, as I alluded to before. What does this contain? Well, both the custom statuses on the import and export side. So we want to connect with custom systems on both sides of the channel. And within the platform, you can really immediately see the status of your MRN, what event happened when, and you can see a chain there. Also, what is important, the physical location. We can obtain the physical location of goods via the pillar 3, the track and trace, but we also want to track the waypoint events. Waypoint events are events within a terminal, within a logistical center, a warehouse, everything that happens there, whether it's just a sorting step, loading it on a truck or a different means of transport, or doing a bit of rework. We all want to encompass that in the platform and give that transparency to other parties in the chain that you might depend on for your services. Now, it is very important that security and integrity, also as Daniel mentioned for his system, that is key. So your data will stay your data within this platform, and you can always choose who can see what aspect of your data, how much they can see, whether they can share that further with their suppliers, etc. So it can be very locked down if you need that to be. All right. Then the timeline of our data sharing platform. We've worked on this since Brexit. That is a bit longer than the 2 years that I've been on the project. But we've had different phases. We're now in phase 4. And the 3 phases before that were study phases and drill down phases to see what the solution needed to be for the problems that we had, and what exactly the details of that were. So these study phases have fortunately materialized into a build phase where we really created a platform, and that started back in June 23, when we really started to build the platform. The analysis of that started in early 23. So what have we done? We've created a prototype version, but a prototype that you can really use, and it has been used by the different parties. So it contains a core set of features that is necessary for all this. Some integrations do not yet exist, like API connections or integrations for the track and trace, but we wanted to create a minimal viable product to do a proof of concept with our partners in the supply chain. So we have this basic platform there. We call it the version 0.0 or 0.1 rather. And we've gained tremendous insightful feedback and very positive feedback from the testing of this platform. And now we are at the crossroads where we decide, okay, the proof of concept is over. What is the road to a version 1.0? And we're really close to that. We are finalizing a business case where we can see how can we make this something viable for the market. We want to position it as something global and not just operated and solely for the port of Antwerp-Bruges. No, other ports should be able to use this as well, so we won't lock that down. And hopefully we can go to a consortium of different ports to operate this system. It is broad in that sense. Geographically, it's not a traditional port community system, but the information in it can be what is represented in a typical port community system. What we also find interesting is that multimodal support. So it's not just crossing the border with a ship or a ferry. It is much more also the train connections between logistical centers, a truck going to and from the port, and the different chain that is all encompassed. Our data structure, it's non-restrictive. So we've worked or we've based ourselves upon the differences that we've seen with the different stakeholders that we tested with. And we've allowed for a broad integration perspective. And we hope that makes integration much smoother in the future. As I said, both Weapon API should be possible in version 1.0. Building that consortium, and the idea is that it should be cost neutral. We're not looking to be a commercial offerer of software here. No, we just wanted to make it cost neutral. The benefit for us will solely be an increase in traffic, and being the first to do that, because it will be a matter of time before other initiatives like this will pop up and gain traction. Well, we have an open approach that everybody can join. It will also be open source, so others can use it, make their own add-ins to it, make their own APIs, go further with it. That is the aim. As I said, we're now finalizing the business case, and hopefully soon we can make a decision to build that version 1.0, and then you'll surely hear much more on this in the future. Now, when will a system like this have value? That's a big and important question. I always tend to go back to my physics classes from the past and network law that you have. You have a bit of different network laws. The law you hear most often of, and that's also represented for the internet, is Metcalfe's law. And that simply states the more nodes you have on your network, the more the value increases exponentially. Well, we find Reed's law more fitting, and it's based upon Metcalfe's law, but it describes network effects within networks, so that increases the value even more. And that is the value from single supply chains within our broad network, because they can collaborate, eliminate efficiencies, have a management overview of their shipment, so they can only look at the exceptions and simply work much more efficiently. So that's most applicable here, Reed's law. I always like to tell that story. Now, for my final slide, why is the Port of Antwerp-Bruges as a port authority that really in its core should manage infrastructure, and I'm not referring to digital infrastructure, but really quays, railroads, roads, and all that. Why are we working on it? Well, we transitioned to becoming a digital organization, digital first, because we really need to make the difference on that front. A key is just a key. That's just how you operate, but how you can attract and boost trade and gain efficiencies from the same square footage that you have. Well, that's simply to try to increase the efficiency of what happens there. So we already have some technological building blocks that we based ourselves upon, our existing port community systems and all that. In our core, we are also a community builder, and that's also on the digital front. And that community will gets broader more and more. It's not just a the companies traditionally within our port area, but that it gets bigger by the day. And it's also important for us, of course, to strengthen the competitive position of Flanders. That is within our scope, but really we are an entry and exit port for a big region of Western Europe. So it's much more than just Flanders, and we realize that. All right, thank you so much for listening to my presentations. I'll now give the word back to Malin, and then I'm looking forward to the questions that you might have.
That's exactly what we're going to do right now, some questions. Thank you very much, Lars. It was very interesting. I really like your project, and this will help a lot in digitalization of trade from now on. I've got actually multiple questions. So let me read what one of the people from the attendance asked. So will we be moving towards full trade digitalization? If so, what level of international standardization will there be? Will there be a situation where a full digital and a full paper declaration will need to or from be made to certain countries? So let's split it. As a timing, do you think that United Kingdom will be able to go to full trade digitalization in the next few years? Daniel, what do you think about this from the UK perspective?
So are we referring to customs? Is that referring to, or are we talking about all
Mostly
levels
customs, and the other aspects, of course, if you can integrate them in your answer.
Well, my personal view and probably CNS's view might be a little bit at odds. So if I go from CNS's point of view and what we're doing within our own customs declaration software is the ability to automate as much as possible with the declaration is key. That's what everybody wants. Ultimately, they want to reduce the number of keystrokes that they're making and automate as much as possible. There is OCR technology out there that is reading documents, but I think we all appreciate that not everybody deals with 2 or 3 big customers who provide paperwork on a very nice, simple document format that is easy to read and therefore automate, for example. Whereas we might, on deep sea trade, have a customer who's got a 20-page invoice that they don't list the tariff codes on. So it's very difficult, I feel, from a customs perspective to go fully automated, because I think what also needs to be remembered, and what really is our regulatory team's standpoint, is that we, as much as we can automate, we still need the declarant to take control of the declaration and be clear and accurate with what they're entering, because ultimately you're putting yourself or your company's name against that declaration. So yes, sorry, I've rambled, but ultimately, yes, there is a goal with everybody, I think, to aim for as much automation as possible. But from a CNS perspective, in future products, that's where we're looking to bring in things like risk engines and data protection that ensures that those final checks are being made. Will that happen in the next year to 18 months? Probably not. There's so much complexity within customs, as much more learned people in that sphere than myself. But yes, there certainly needs to be, and I think, a push from freight forwarders. They want less and less customs entry clerks and more people just dealing and growing the business and use software to automate. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Daniel. It was an open question, so it's definitely answering the question. Now, I understand, and I've noticed in the last 10, 12 years since I've started to do international trade, that there are differences between countries. So to have a standardization of documentation or requirements, it's almost impossible. And what I noticed, and I want Lars to tell me if his vision about this, is that certain countries, they are not at the level of technology to allow a simple transition from paper documentation to everything to be done online. And of course, this is the goal, as Dan said, but Lars, can you tell me, while you are doing this project, A Gateway to Britain, did you encounter any issues? Did you take in consideration other customs than GB and Belgium?
Yeah, thank you, Malin. That's a very good question. And indeed, there are major differences across the world. And to be honest, with Gateway to Britain, we're not just aiming for trade with the Great Britain, but in the future also to other countries. And that's also a logical step. If we want to be a broad platform that not just focuses on a single aspect, but it won't be efficient that way. So we would undermine one of our goals that way. So yeah, really adhering to these standards is important. But we've also seen that every country tries to reinvent the wheel sometimes. And okay, you might have the EU or the UN working on standards, and some countries or software providers might implement them, but it's always in a different way. There's always some wiggle room to interpret it how you like. So what we try to do is at the maximum adhere to these standards where they are really standards, but where there is ambiguity, we want to remove ourselves from that equation. For example, on a custom status perspective, because I mentioned we want to represent those in our system, we would have country-specific statuses outlined in the platform where you can see when that status has achieved. But we don't really need to do any further integration to that, so we can remove the complexity from the equation within Gateway to Britain, because simply we want to aggregate the data and not alter the data, and that makes sure that we don't have to adhere to these standards. We don't need to transform anything, so we can just represent what we receive and make sure that that is in a readable format. At the maximum, really, we just need to convert units, going from pounds to kilograms, tons, all that. So for us, that has been quite simple, fortunately. Because we are not replacing any custom software or port community system that exists today. We're really aiming a different market that's currently not served by creating a transparency layer on top. And also, Gateway to Britain should be a stepping stone to these different systems that integrate with Gateway to Britain, where you can make the changes that you want according to their system spec. So parties would still have their full range of choice, what they use, how they use it, how they integrate it. Gateway to Britain is just an aggregation and a stepping board to all the rest.
Thank you, Lars. Now I'll make another assumption. I said at the beginning that I'm doing some assumptions. Now this is a personal touch. I understand that all this digitalization and the single trade window, they are actually there to support the companies to make their life easier. So in the practical aspects, you input the data in a system, and that data will go to customs, they'll go to DEFRA, they'll go to other customs across the globe, wherever the goods will go, and will also complete the forms for logistics, I don't know, the transit documentation and so on. So you put the kilograms in one place, and the kilograms will appear in different boxes, in different documents. Is this a good understanding? Is this correct?
For Gateway to Britain, or
in general, the aim of Gateway to Britain, and as well of what those type of platforms are looking to do in the future?
Okay, yeah, I really think that is the future. What we currently see is that every party has to retype the same data or copy paste it in the best case, perhaps. That there isn't really a flow where you automatically process the input from your suppliers to your service providers that do the declarations for you and the bookings and all that. Of course, it exists, but it is quite limited, and it's limited to the major companies currently. So for SMEs, it's all manual. And given time, given how economy tends to work, we'll see that these smaller parties are then really pushed out of the market simply on cost basis. What we've also seen, at least in Antwerp, I don't know how the situation is in the UK, but expediters were typically very small organizations. In Antwerp, you had thousands of these in the past. It was just 3 people renting an apartment somewhere. Their information system from the company, its name was Excel, and they just processed everything manually. And of course, they were very flexible. You could do last minute bookings and all that, and that was their USP. And it still is in some cases. But what we've seen is that shipping lines, when they got influx from COVID and the container boom, is that they started creating expediters for themselves, large organizations based in Asia often, that do this partially automatically. So for standard shipments, a lot of these small expediters have been pushed out of the market, and that is already an efficiency digitalisation push. So I definitely believe that that will be more the topic in the future. It won't be there tomorrow or in 18 months, as Daniel said. It might not even be for this decade, but with AI coming up, we'll see that more and more. And Gateway to Britain tries to make that same functionality where you can automatically process the input from your suppliers and partners to your expediters and other service providers automatically, whether it's via API or efficiently via a web platform. We want to make that available to the masses.
Yeah.
So that's also definitely to protect the SMEs.
Thank you very much. That's great. I want to add, you reminded about artificial intelligence. I visited the port, and Daniel probably Dan knows about it. The ports now, they integrated artificial intelligence and the physical, the actual facts, what's happening. The boat is coming. Automatically, you know on which position on the boat you have a specific container that will need to be unloaded. They will be unloaded. They will be placed at a specific bay. The transporters are booking time slots, so they know when they can go to pick up their containers. And from the pile of containers, artificial intelligence during the night, and also based on the slots that they have, they reshuffle all the containers. So early in the morning, the first truck will spend as less time as possible to pick up that container. Dan, can you tell us a bit more, and if you have any other those amazing AI digitalization upgrades?
Certainly from a community system provider, CNS, we're actively involved in Where's My Container, the vehicle booking system, as far as the software that DP World in London Gateway and Southampton are using. CNS aren't directly involved in that. So I can't necessarily have visibility of what's in the roadmap, what's coming, what further automation is there. But certainly, I think if people want to follow DP World on LinkedIn, there is huge sharing of what we are doing within the group to try and automate and speed up the process as quickly as possible. What you mentioned there about the AI to review what vehicles are booked and what containers they booked to collect the following morning, reshuffle the stack, make sure that is more effective. Use of resource first thing in the morning. what's the metric for the port? It's how quickly we turn around those vehicles. So I can't speak with any clarity, unfortunately, Marlin, as what's coming, but I would be more than happy to pass that question on to my colleagues at DP World and see what we can share. Because no doubt, from what I see with DP World, they are trying very different things, and that's why both ports are renowned for their productivity.
Thank you very much, Dan. So it seems that the purpose is to make everything slightly easier for the importers and exporters, to save time. And of course, if you are saving time, you are saving money when it's about transportation and logistics. So if there are no questions, I think we can wrap up the session for today. And I can say a big thank you from Thames Valley Chamber to the attendees that they spend the time with us today. Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you very much, Lars. And have a lovely day.